the overall crime situation in St. Kitts and Nevis. And that is what I think we should focus on foremost. And comparatively speaking, in 2013, we had a total of 1,167 crimes from January to August. And in 2014, we saw 796 crimes, which is a 32% decline over that period, which is January to August. For January to August 2015, we are seeing 561 crimes as compared to 796 in 2014, which is a 29.5% decrease for the same period. Of that 561 crimes for the period January to August of this year, we have had 186 crimes detected. This is a 33% detection rate. It brings me no real pleasure to recall the statistics, as glamorous as they might seem to others, because our philosophy has always been that one homicide is one too many. And so our efforts to reduce homicides and violent crime will continue to be aggressive and will continue to be upfront to put the criminals out of business and mainly into retirement. As it relates to our operational efforts, for the period the 21st of June down to the 17th of August, we have had 9 joint operations. Our mobile command unit is being deployed daily. As we speak, it is in the McKnight community and it is assisting with high visibility police and bringing a presence of police to help to restore trust and confidence in the Royal St. Christopher Nevis Police Force. Over that period, we have seen over 2,507 persons stopped and searched. We have seen the effectiveness of these stop and search operations. 56 houses were searched with warrants. 137 derelict vehicles were searched. 410 operational vehicles, that are vehicles that we stopped during operations. 191 abandoned houses were searched. 93 empty lots were searched. Significantly to report is the fact that over that period, 38,804 marijuana plants were uprooted and destroyed. And 1.5 pound cured marijuana found and 1 kilo of cocaine found. Our thrust to rid this country of illegal drugs will continue. Over 92 checks of piers and jetties securing our borders. We appreciate that our borders are somewhat porous and every effort is being made to seal off our borders. Whether it's on the ferry, or the piers, or the airports, every effort are being made through the use of canine and our tactical units doing search operations. Our anti-narcotic unit has reported a significant increase in confiscation of the seizure of illegal drugs. We have seen in 2014, 91,507 marijuana plants uprooted, and in 2015 alone to date, 170,000 marijuana plants uprooted. I want to thank the general public for the trust and confidence that they have reposed in the Royal St. Christopher Nevis Police Force since the introduction of our 6-point plan of action. And to let them know that we are committed to working with them to make St. Kitts and Nevis a safe place to live, to visit, and to do business. Thank you very much.
Thank you very much, ACP Henderson, for that comprehensive report. I want to invite the Honorable Premier maybe to share a perspective. Could I encourage you to say a word, since the matter has been raised specifically with respect to Nevis? And then I want to use the opportunity, if I may, to invite one of our foreign experts from the UK who is here, Mr. David King, to make some brief remarks. That being said, I must pay tribute to the yeoman service of many officers at the middle and lower levels since we have launched the crime plan, the 6-point plan to minimize crime in the Federation, for their support. In several meetings with the High Command, being advised that these officers have gone beyond the call of duty in very special operations which require them to be out very late, very early in the wee hours of the morning, risking their lives for our safety and our peace. I want, as a Minister of National Security, to record my own personal quota of support and appreciation for their bravery, their courage, and their support for law and order, and that we shall certainly reward them, and so we will not take their work for granted. Inspector Adams is here, and he has given very special, dedicated service in that regard. He leads a special group of some of the finest and most dedicated in the force. Inspector Adams, could you stand? I want to ask that we commend him and all the support officers. And I should add Mr. Brown, who has also been providing special support. And this is not saying that all the others are not in part, but as we began to implement the program, we had to call on special support to do this. So Adams was among those who volunteered to take on the mantle. And I know, because many times when I have to call him, Adi, where are you? Boss, you have me here, can't sleep. Our prayers are with them as they pursue these dangerous tasks on behalf of all of us. Honorable Premier.
Thank you very much, Prime Minister, and members of the press and other persons here at this press conference. I would like to say that the reference to Mr. Brandy's call for rewards to be paid, I think that was a private sector arrangement. And one of the things which we have done and which we are seeing coming forward in Nevis is that the private sector, business owners, owners of hotel properties and so on, are very concerned about the incidence of criminal activity. And the analysis which you are making and which is being made with the help of Mr. King and his advisors to the police and with the High Command acting Commissioner of Police and his High Command staff, is that we are seeing a change in the profile of the activity, criminal activity in Nevis. It is not something which we are happy about, but I want to say that we have had quite quite a number of discussions or opportunities to discuss with the Police High Command in Nevis, Mr. Brandy leading that. And on 2 occasions, we've had representatives from the Bramshill Police consulting firm coming over to discuss with us the strategies which are being implemented. Clearly, we cannot say to the general public the specifics of those strategies. Sufficient to say, I feel that the police are following up on leads which they have received. They are intensifying their stops and search operations. They are also visiting or looking at the residences of people whom they identify as being involved in criminal activity to make sure we put the pressure on them. Because we believe that ongoing insistence in pursuing people who we believe are involved in criminal activity will be one of the avenues through which we can break this scourge of criminal activity. We do not want anybody to feel that the police is harassing anybody. We will always get criticism of the police. If they do nothing, people will criticize. If they do something, people will criticize. The key, we feel, and this is across the board in St. Kitts and Nevis, I can say that because there's that collaboration, is to keep the pressure on those people who are suspects until we are able to get the required evidence to take the matter into court. And I believe that is the cautious way to approach this matter. It makes no sense arresting people and then having the government, as the AG said the last time we were here and the Prime Minister might have mentioned, to be faced with claims from people for quote-unquote wrongful arrests. I want to say that the police in Nevis, with the support of the Army, contingent of Army supporters, with the High Command and the advice, additional advice from the consultants, I think we are getting a handle on what is going on in Nevis in terms of criminal activity. And I can report that on Tuesday of this week, I met with representatives of the Chamber of Industry and Commerce, and they have pledged, after clearly quizzing us, wanting to know what we are doing as an administration and what is being done generally. They have pledged to partner with the administration and I suppose generally with the police to continue to provide their private sector contribution, but also to work in strict partnership to find solutions to the criminal activity or the crimes in Nevis. I feel, ladies and gentlemen, that we are on a very strong path of dealing with the criminals, and the activity of the police in Nevis and police here, as you heard from ACP Henderson, to keep the pressure on will, I think, in short order, bear fruit in terms of cracking some of those outstanding cases. And I want to commend the Police High Command. I want to commend all the officers involved in the fight against crime, because we are all in this together. And the criticism of what the police does once they don't break the law, I don't think we need to be fearful of that. Our thing is to make sure we stay within the ambit of the law, but get the work done to keep the criminals on the defensive. And as the Commissioner acting has said, we will go after them, and we will get them, and we will convict them. And that will take some time, but we are engaging in the process. Members of the press, members of the public, that is our process and our strategy. Thank you very much.
Thank you very much, Premier. And I want to invite David King, who represents part of the foreign expertise we have brought in, not to replace, but to complement the skills within the police to ensure that we are able to restore the country to a peaceful state in terms of law and order. I now invite him, and I also invite him by saying, and he's hearing this perhaps for the first time, that as a result of the visit to Taiwan, one specific area is that we have been able to secure resources from the government of Taiwan to be able to extend the support of the expert team from the UK who has been here with us. And so this is certainly good news and one of the direct beneficial outcomes that has come from my trip, and I'm expecting sometime this week the resources would be here. So I want to commend you. I must equally say that we have approached the government of the USA and we have solicited their support in bringing FBI into St. Kitts and Nevis, again to complement the activities that are taking place. I say all these things to say that we are concerned about every homicide in the country, that for us, as with the police, one homicide is too many, and that the Team Unity government will leave no stone unturned to ensure that we get our country to be the most safe and the most secure country within the region and by extension in the world. We were that way once ago, and we can return. With those words, Mr. King, I want to invite you to make some brief remarks.
Thank you, Prime Minister. We've been here now for a couple of months. I first of all need to say that the problems that you've got in St. Kitts and Nevis aren't peculiar to the Caribbean. The problems have manifested themselves roughly since 1999. They've not arrived overnight, and nor will they be solved overnight.
Good point.
A lot of this stems out of US and UK activity in Colombia with the Medellin and Cali cartels in drugs back in the 1980s, and as a consequence, drug dealers finding different routes, and where you find drugs, you find guns, you find human trafficking, and that's affecting the whole of the region, not peculiar to St. Kitts and Nevis. As far as we're concerned, what we've done since we've been here, with the support of the government, we've increased the number of staff of the Violent Crime Unit. We've gone up now to halfway to where we need to be. More officers will be coming to join them shortly. We have trained 43 officers in various investigative techniques, most of them detectives, but some of them supervisors, so that they know what the people they're supervising are doing. We've introduced some new initiatives. I won't go into all of them because some of it is sensitive. One of the things we have done, if you imagine that you live in an area where crime is taking place, the police come and knock on the door, there's a natural tendency for the public not to want to be seen, to be talking to the police by the criminals. We've introduced a system with leaflet drops, bearing the number of the Violent Crime Unit, bearing the number for Crime Stoppers, offering a reward, and then allowing people to ring up this number or the Crime Stoppers number to report these issues to the police. That has a double effect in that if we've got witnesses coming forward and the criminals know we've dropped leaflets in those areas, it masks the identity of the witness and gives them some protection. The police infrastructure needs a lot of investment. It's been neglected, sadly, over the years, and needs investment in equipment, because where you get witnesses, particularly in a small community like this, you need witness protection. Witness protection is very, very expensive, and it's very difficult, particularly if you've got a criminal that's decided to turn as a witness. Where can you send them? Because other countries don't want to take in criminals. What we need to do is perhaps negate the need for eyewitnesses, too much reliance on that at the moment, but introduce more science and more CCTV. The government have invested very heavily in some equipment for the CSI department. Only this week we've got a number of items going across to Miami for examination in relation to both recent murders and some old cases that we've been reviewing since we've been here. We've also introduced the notion of family liaison. I won't go into too much detail again because this matter is sub judice, but we've been speaking to the families of recent victims, and as a consequence of the way they've been treated by the police, certain information has come forward. That was always one of our aims. We've also introduced some systems and some process from the UK, the documentation that we use in the UK, in order to secure those convictions and make sure they pass through the Privy Council without too much interference. we've noticed in the last few weeks an increase in cooperation from the public, both here and in Nevis. And I'm glad to say, Prime Minister, thanks for that latest information about Taiwan. That took me a little by surprise. There's obviously further training.
We're always at work, so.
There's obviously further training to follow. The violent crime unit itself has been working absolutely assiduously over the last 2 or 3 weeks since we've been here, supported by Mr. Adams and Mr. Henderson's teams. It's not just the violent crime unit that are out there risking their lives. Obviously, it's the guys that support them at the crime scenes, and the crime scene department as well needs some credit. I've witnessed some stuff here. Bear in mind, I've been investigating homicides for a large number of years. Some successes here that I've not seen anywhere else in the world, in terms of some of the CSI findings, in terms of fingerprints, etc. And they're doing. It's not the sort of thing that the public would know about, because it doesn't manifest itself, of course, until it gets to court. And because it's sub judice, it's not a subject that we can talk about in that sort of detail. There is much more to do. As I say, the problems didn't start overnight, and they're not going to finish quickly. So I would ask everybody to be patient with both the police and the government, and also for the public to cooperate. And on behalf of the Violent Crime Unit, if someone calls the Violent Crime Unit and tells them something, they will react and they will do something about it. So please call them if you've got any information about any of the homicides. Thank you, sir.
Excellent. I want to thank you, and I also want to recognize, is it Sergeant Mitchell? Superintendent. Oh, how did I demote you? I regret that. Could you stand, because again, these are the men in the front line, and we want them always, and their families, who, while they are out doing yeoman service on behalf of the country, their families are isolated and vulnerable. And we need to ensure that they feel and they know that the contribution that they are making, especially when they go beyond the call, is highly appreciated by all, but in particular, the leadership of the country. So, gentlemen, I want to say thank you for all of you, and to thank Mr. King and his team for the excellent work that they have been doing. That is the report I get when I speak to ACP Henderson, the acting commissioner, or Quealy, regarding the performance so far. Of course, because these are security matters, we can't come to the public each time with the nitty-gritty of these strategies that are now implemented. But what we did here is that since the implementation of the 6-point plan, according to the evidence proffered by ACP Henderson, we have seen a marked reduction in criminal activity. And that ought to be noted and commended. When we started the year, some people forgot that by February, mid-February, we had already 7 murders. We were nearly operating at 4 murders, 4 homicides per month. And if that trajectory had continued, by now we'll be talking 36. Lest we forget, every homicide is regrettable and ought to be condemned, and every resource of this state must be applied to resolve every homicide. No life is more important than the other. That is the approach we shall take, and that is why we have brought in all the support. That is why the last time I was in Barbados, it wasn't just about FATCA. FATCA was just one of the things I did while there. But importantly, it was to draw to the attention of the American government the urgency of their support with respect to the FBI coming to St. Kitts and Nevis and render assistance in the areas in which we need additional support.
So my last question to you. The IMF and to some extent the ECCB have both indicated that the economy at some point will begin to slow down in terms of its growth. That means, or it seems to me that it requires certain core responses from the government in terms of the economic strategy, what then would be your focus, your priorities in terms of sort of preempting the situation and preparing the country for that rate, a low growth rate?
Thank you. I want to say economic growth goes in cycles. And so you go up and you won't always be up. The question is, how do you smooth the growth and ensure that it's adequate? China, for example, had for a long time been nearing double-digit growth. What are we hearing now? Everyone is scared. China's growth is now single-digit, probably somewhere 7 or 8. But 7 or 8 is a miracle. It is a miracle in the context of China and what that economy represents, now the second largest economy in the world. And so, as in everything else, you will go up, you will plateau, and you have to have new growth drivers to take you there. The budget will come in December, and at that time, I will put to the country our strategies for taking the country forward and upward. What is important is that so far, the IMF has been very impressed with the performance of the economy under the watchful eye of Team Unity government. And they are projecting for 2015 that we will still have the most significant performance in the Caribbean at a 5% level of growth. So I say to God be the glory, and we take it one day at a time. But I am confident that we have the necessary measures in place that will take us to the next level. But we will have that discussion in our budget come for 2016. We then still have a very optimistic projection. So, for example, we are expecting strong growth in tourism, or else Mr. Grant wouldn't be traveling to Miami and all around the world that he has gone. In support of the growth and increase in the stayover and the cruise ships coming to St. Kitts and Nevis and new airlines. So there is value to the external travel once it brings reward in the name of the people. We are still expecting that next year we will have a new flagship in Park Hyatt, and that will mean new avenue of economic activity, people coming in, expenditure, new jobs, etc., etc., etc. And we could go on and on. So we are optimistic about the future, and there shall be naysayers and so on and so on. Always will be. But we are optimistic about the country's future. We have a last question for Mr. Conway.
The question about the sugar and the...
Yes, a reminder. What I am advised, Mr. Conway, is that we had applications submitted, because in order for you to benefit, one of the criteria must be that you submitted or one was submitted on your behalf. We have had applications from Guyanese, but these are Guyanese living mainly in Nevis. And I want to thank Nevis for being a welcoming island with respect to our community nationals. And so those are part of the pool. They are part of the successful ones. 1,800 plus persons who are now the new set of beneficiaries, thanks to the fair share and the fresh start that we have offered. I want at this point then, since there are no further questions, to thank the representatives of the media, to thank my cabinet colleagues for coming, to thank those high officials of the government who have come to lend their support. Thank you, and may the rest of your evening be a productive and pleasant one. Thank you very much.